your books are off by exactly 75 cents. Everyone tells you to let it go, but that tiny number is the loose end of a thread, and if you pull on it long enough, it will lead you out of a California laboratory, across an ocean, and into the hands of the KGB. Nobody in 1986 believes that yet, including you. Here is where you are standing. It is 1986. You work at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory in California. You are not a security expert. You are an astronomer. Your telescope funding dried up, so the lab moved you downstairs to look after computers instead of stars. And on your first real assignment, someone hands you an accounting error. 75 cents. That is the whole job. Find out why the ledger does not balance. Why does a lab even track something that small? Because in 1986, computer time is expensive and shared. The mainframe bills by the minute. Every researcher who logs in gets charged for the seconds they use, and at the end of the month, the totals are supposed to line up perfectly. Time used equals time billed. It is bookkeeping, not security. Except this month, they do not line up. 75 cents of machine time was used by someone the accounting system cannot name. Think about what that actually means. It is not that the number is wrong. It is that the number is right, and the person it belongs to does not exist. Somebody was on your machine. Somebody who was never issued an account. The gap is not an error. The gap is a footprint. Most people would round it off. What makes you different is that you do not. So you start watching. You do the unglamorous thing. You write everything down. Times, commands, sessions, dates. You keep a logbook the way an astronomer keeps observation notes, because that is the only discipline you actually have, and it turns out to be exactly the right one. Then you go further. You attach a printer directly to the connection line. Understand what that does. Every keystroke the intruder types now prints out on paper, in real time, as it happens. He types a command in the middle of the night, and a dot matrix printer in a Berkeley office quietly spits out a record of it. He does not know. He cannot know. There is no software running to detect, no alert to trip, nothing for him to notice, just paper piling up on the floor. You are, without having a name for it, building the first crude intrusion detection system. And what the paper starts showing you is much worse than 75 cents. The intruder is not staying. He is passing through. Your lab is a stepping stone. He logs into Berkeley, and from Berkeley he jumps outward into other machines across the early networks of the era. You need to know what those networks are, so here they are. ARPANET is the research network that will eventually become the Internet. MILNET is the branch of it split off for U.S. military traffic. TIMNET is a commercial network that carries connections over phone lines, including from overseas. In 1986, these are not fortresses. They are a small town where most doors are unlocked because nobody has ever needed to lock them. Your intruder walks through that town, door by door, and you can read exactly what he is looking for, because the printer captured his searches. He searches for military documents. He searches for nuclear material. And again, he searches for anything connected to SDI, the Strategic Defense Initiative, the Missile Defense Program, the press nicknamed Star Wars. Does that sound like a curious teenager to you? It does not sound like one to you either. Teenagers do not systematically hunt for missile defense documents across military networks at 3 in the morning. That is not mischief. That is collection. Somebody is shopping with a list. So you take it to the authorities. And here is the part of the story that is easy to skip past. Nobody wants it. You call the FBI. 75 cents is not a federal case. You call other agencies. There is no clear law, no clear jurisdiction, no clear precedent. Because in 1986, the crime you are describing does not really have a name yet. There is no category for a foreign intruder walking through American military computers over a phone line. You are holding evidence of something the system has no folder for, so you keep going alone. Now you hit the technical wall. To find out who he is, you have to trace the phone line he is coming in on. But a trace in 1986 is not instant. It has to be walked backward, link by link, hop by hop, across networks and phone carriers and international lines, and each hop takes time. Real time. Minutes. Your intruder never stays connected that long. He logs in, he does his work, he leaves. The trace dies halfway home every single time. So what do you do when your target will not stand still? You give him a reason to stay. You invent a project. You create a fictional government program and call it SDINET, dress it up with official-sounding paperwork, and fill it with documents that look exactly like what he has been hunting for all these months. Then you leave it sitting on your system where he cannot miss it. None of it is real. Every page of it is bait. You are inventing the honeypot. That word means something specific, so let us be precise. A honeypot is a fake target deliberately placed in the open, valuable enough that an attacker cannot resist it, and completely worthless if he takes it. Its only purpose is to hold his attention while you study him. Today it is standard practice, taught in every security program in the world. In 1986, nobody has done it. And the bait works. He finds SDINET. He starts reading. And reading a large batch of fake documents takes a long time, so for the first time he stays connected. And stays, and stays. The trace finally runs all the way home. The line goes out of California, across the Atlantic, into West Germany. It ends in the city of Hanover. The man on the other end is Markus Hess. And he is not a hobbyist. He is being paid. Hess has been selling the material he steals from American military and research computers to the Soviet KGB. Sit with that for a second. A 75-cent bookkeeping error at a California physics lab, followed patiently and stubbornly for months by a man who was not even a security professional, ends at a Soviet intelligence operation. That is why 1986 is the year everything changes. Before this, espionage meant a person crossing a border, a person meeting a handler, a person carrying paper. This case is one of the first fully documented instances of espionage conducted entirely down a wire from another continent, without anyone ever setting foot on American soil. The spy never came. The spy just dialed in. So here is the twist that keeps this story alive 40 years later. Nothing sophisticated caught him. No firewall caught him. No encryption caught him. No brilliant piece of code caught him, because in 1986 there was barely any of that to deploy. What caught a KGB asset operating out of Hanover was an accounting ledger, a printer, a paper logbook, and one person who refused to accept that a number was too small to matter. The most advanced defense of the decade was a man who wrote things down. You wrote all of it down afterward, too. The book is called The Cuckoo's Egg, published in 1989, and it is still read today, not because the technology is relevant, but because the instinct is. You also published the technical account as a paper, stalking the wily hacker, so the field could learn from it. The cuckoo, if you are wondering about the title, is a bird that lays its egg in another bird's nest and lets a stranger raise it. That is what was happening in Berkeley. Something foreign, sitting quietly inside a system that had no idea it was there, being fed by it. Now look at your own systems, because the shape of this has not changed at all. Your logs are full of small numbers. A login at an hour nobody works. A session that ran slightly too long. A tiny gap between what was used and what was billed. An account that nobody quite remembers creating. Every one of those is a 75-cent discrepancy. And the honest reason most breaches run undetected for months is almost never that the attacker was brilliant. It is that the anomaly was small. Somebody saw it, and somebody decided it was not worth the afternoon. What is the smallest thing on your system this week that you decided not to look into? You do not need better tools to be the person in this story. Stoll did not have better tools. He had worse tools than anything you have running right now. What he had was the refusal to round a number off. So keep the log. Read the log. Follow the thing that does not add up, even when everyone tells you it is nothing, especially when everyone tells you it is nothing. Your books are off by exactly 75 cents. That is not an error. That is somebody standing inside your system. And the only question left is whether you are the person who bothers to look.